Hey guys, how are ya?
Hello, hello. Again.
Dr. Kandarjian and her Palmer Jr. Lobster Lab Media.
Right.
Well, I had an interesting topic tonight. I'm going to talk about doing the deep inner work, or doing your deep inner work, doing your deep inner soul work in a crisis. I think the first thing is flexibility. Tonight, we were normally going to walk through Morristown, and there's a thunderstorm going on, so we had to be a little flexible in what we decided to do.
We're
right?
Indoors.
Exactly, and the lighting and the acoustics are very good here. So,
Yeah.
so we're going to start with that. Let's see, what was I going to say? So, reflection versus reaction. What do you have to say about that?
That's
right?
really good.
I mean, most people just react. We go to instant, whether it's defense or we run.
Right.
But we don't really. Most people don't, at least initially, reflect on what's going on. They sort of just react.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Right. There are the teachings of Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, and even Kabbalah mysticism. When we look at that, they say pause. Like before you react, something happens. Like just for a moment, just pause and get centered, and actually don't react.
Right.
Don't react.
Just process.
Probably the most painful thing, the most difficult thing is to not react, to stay in that center, to pause. But we're such reactive people. So what you're saying is, what is the difference between reaction and reflection, right?
Yeah.
I think reflection would be, for me, instead of reacting, I'm going to stop and reflect and say probably two things. Number one, how did I contribute to this conflict? Why is this conflict in my life? Obviously, I'm supposed to learn something from it.
Well, that's the high road.
That's the high road, right? The high road is like, okay, if I didn't contribute to the conflict, nevertheless, it's here in my life right now.
Right, because there's always
I'm supposed
blame,
to learn something.
Right? Everybody wants to blame, like, you did it, they did it to me.
Right.
But taking the personal responsibility of how did I create or co-create this conflict or crisis, right? That's where the high ground is. That's where the soul growth is.
Yes, because if we're blaming, that means we're a victim, and I always say victims don't grow.
And we're not getting the lesson. We're going to repeat it over and over and over again, right?
I agree.
Until they get more painful, until we have to finally look at it.
So if a reflective person is going to own it,
Right.
is going to own it, she's going to own it, she's going to say, oh, I'm supposed to learn something from this. I just attracted an individual in my life that betrayed me, or that cheated me, or that lied to me, and I'm supposed to learn from this. Or the other reflective experience would be, okay, something terrible is happening here. How is it that I may have contributed to this conflict, and what am I supposed to learn about myself from in the way that I contributed? Maybe I need to be more humble. Maybe I need to be more courageous. Maybe I need to be more honest, so on and so forth. Yeah.
Absolutely. What I was thinking when you're talking about that is, the other day, it was yesterday, the day before, right? We had this bad storms coming through New Jersey, right? So a lot of people lost electricity, phone, and internet.
Wow.
So that could be a lot of crisis, because guess what that leaves us with? Our thoughts and our thinking.
Yes.
Because if we don't have any distractions, all we're with is our thoughts and who we are.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So I thought that was very interesting.
There's a really wonderful essay I read years ago. It was written by Eva Pirakos. Actually, it was a lecture. You can look it up. And the name of the lecture was The Spiritual Meaning of Crisis. And it's really a wonderful work. And what it talks about is, like, when there's a crisis going on, take the high road, like you said, and ask, what is the spiritual meaning of this?
Right. What's the lesson in it?
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes it's real deep.
Right.
Sometimes it's real deep.
But globally, I don't feel like we're there yet. Like globally, we don't we don't reflect, we react.
Right.
Whether it's governments, institutions, organizations, parents, right? They're reactive. One thing I always tell parents is, don't always ask, or don't always think about, or ask yourself, like, what am I supposed to teach my children? Rather ask, how is this child how is this child my teacher? Right? Like when we do that, it really turns it around, doesn't it? Like, how is this child my teacher? How is my daughter my teacher? How is my son my teacher? And instead of going to that experience of, like you said, globally we just react and we blame and we think we know better, but the crises are bringing lessons, and I think the theme today seems to be about when we reflect, we see the lessons.
Right.
When we react, we don't see the lessons.
Right, and then we repeat them when we don't see the lesson.
There you go.
Right.
Right.
And
the
lessons seem to get harder and harder and harder. And you know, I coined the phrase the God hammer. It's like when we, and thunder. Interesting. Thunder beings. So when we don't,
that was a confirmation.
Exactly. When we don't take the high ground and we don't do the reflection, they repeat. The patterns repeat, and the lessons seem to get harder and more painful and more drama and more traumatic until finally it knocks us to our knees, essentially.
Yes.
Right? And at that point, many times it becomes a health crisis,
yes.
right? Or a financial crisis, or you know, a marriage crisis, or something that knocks us to our knees,
yes.
essentially. And then we almost have to look at it.
Right. It's
right?
like yeah, I think anything that brings us to our knees is really a humbling moment. And I mean, my take on that is that we shouldn't be on our knees on our own. We should always ask for help, reach out for help, whether it's asking help from God or asking help from
community or trusted people,
or you know, trusted friends and family members, right? So yeah, reflection. I think what we're kind of summarizing here is that the spiritual meaning of crisis is that the crisis is an opportunity for us to reflect, and by reflecting we can grow.
Yeah.
You know, and by not reflecting, we just, like you said, just repeat the drama.
Right.
Different actors, different in our lives,
people, right?
But the same drama, same pattern.
Exactly, and I think that's one of the parts of the journey of life here is to grow and to expand, you know, to become deeper and more aware, you know.
I've come to my own personal biased conclusion is that we're here to have fun, positive pleasure, to grow spiritually, especially spiritually, and of course emotionally, to grow, and by reflecting we do grow, and 3, to serve.
Yes.
Yeah, and when we grow and we have accumulated wisdom and knowledge, we have to give it back. Exactly. Even if we've accumulated money and financial security, we have to give back. It's really about serving and not self-serving.
Correct. Exactly. That's part of the expansion process on planet Earth, essentially.
Yeah.
So that's it, you guys. Again, another great, cool, deep topic.
Yes, wonderful. With Herb Palmer Jr.
And Dr. Robert Kandarjian of drrobertheals.com. All right, and you can find me at Lobster Lab Media on YouTube. We've got probably close to 100 videos now.
Actually, we're in August 2020. I just started my podcast this week.
Awesome.
What's
it called?
It's called Dr. Robert Says. Doctor is spelled out DOCTOR. Robert Says, SAYS. Dr. Robert Says.
I like that. And when's it start?
It started. I just started it this week.
Okay.
And I'm going to do a lot of. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be. It's going to be an exploration.
Okay.
And probably
an exploration on planet Earth by Dr. Robert.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you. See you soon.
Thank you, Herb.
All right.